So Trump has announced his plan to destroy the deep state, and boy, oh boy, does he mean business. Everything from eliminating the Department of Education to stripping woke colleges of their accreditation and public funding to, on top of that, taxing, or rather fining, the entire endowments, which are in the billions for Harvard and other universities that have gone woke, and taking all of that money away from them and giving it as restitution to people who were denied entrance because they were not of a certain the city or fell into a certain specific minority group. Watch it in this video to fully understand the implications of what Trump is doing here, how it's going to reshape everything around us. Today's video is going to be coming from our friend over at the Anton Daniels channel. His channel will be linked in the description, so you can go check him out and support him. And now let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
Costs at colleges and universities have been exploding, and I mean absolutely exploding, while academics have been obsessed with indoctrinating America's youth. The time has come to reclaim our once great educational institutions from the radical left, and we will do that. Our secret weapon will be the college accreditation system. It's called accreditation for a reason. The accreditors are supposed to ensure that schools are not ripping off students and taxpayers, but they have failed totally. When I return to the White House, I will fire the radical left accreditors that have allowed our colleges to become dominated by Marxist maniacs and lunatics. We will then accept applications for new accreditors who will impose real standards on colleges once again and once and for all. These standards will include defending the American tradition and Western civilization, protecting free speech, eliminating wasteful administrative positions that drive up costs incredibly, removing all Marxist diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucrats, offering options for accelerated and low-cost degrees, providing meaningful job placement and career services, and implementing college entrance and exit exams to prove that students are actually learning and getting their money's worth. Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and schools that persist in explicit, unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment. A portion of the seized funds will then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies that hurt our country so badly. Colleges have gotten hundreds of billions of dollars from hardworking taxpayers, and now we are going to get this anti-American insanity out of our institutions once and for all.
He is not messing around. This is one of the rare moments in history. Listen, we are listening and witnessing real history in real time. Before, it almost seems like he's already president of the United States of America. Thank God we finally got some backbone and some masculinity to address the issues that we've all been concerned about all of this time. It feels like new life, new blood. It does, man. It has this, it's electric. What's happening in the country right now. And I'm so glad that not only did he win the popular vote, not only did he paint the country red, that we have masculinity back in office. Oh, man, before we even get to what he's saying, make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, Tej Hanley, 40% off your first order plus 20% off for life. And come and kick it with me December 14th in Detroit. It's going to be an excellent, awesome show. Can't wait to kick it with y'all. Let me say this, man. Let me say this and say it clearly. This is a win for men. I know that 73% of black men decided that they wanted to vote for Kamala Harris. I know that 88% of black women decided that they wanted to vote for Kamala Harris. I remember I was talking to this girl back in college when I first graduated high school, and I went and visited her up at the University of Michigan. You know who you are. Shout out to you. And she said, Anton, I did incredible in high school, but I'm not sure that I was truly prepared for what this program, and it was an architecture program that she was in. She was becoming an architect. She said, I wasn't prepared for what this is. I can't compete.
You know, guys, I've already said this. In fact, I made a post about this over in the community section of my channel, discussing the fact that many of us, Zennials and younger Gen Xers, wish that we had never stepped foot into university. We had never gone to college. We had never done any of these things. Many of us wish that we had gone and become garbage men. There are some of you are going to say, "Oh, I don't want to be no garbage man. I'll be happy with what I have here. Yes, I have my student loans, but many of you are dumb as hell. I'm just being real. A lot of y'all are dumb. You are dumb. If you are sitting on tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt and you are barely making enough money to survive, because there's some of you who are complaining and crying that you can't survive. You barely make $50,000, or you don't make $50,000, and you have a college education and tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. But you're too proud, you're too good to go and be a garbage man. Let me make it clear. All of those people that I grew up with that went into the trades, all of those people now have houses. They drive nice cars. Many of them have wives and kids. They live good lives. They never hurt for money. There's always work because now they are masters of their positions. They can demand whatever they want and they'll get it. That's how reality is. That's how society is now structured. So many of us were dumb enough to go and get these stupid college degrees because we were told if we didn't do it, we were going to end up like the other guys. We were going to end up like the construction workers. We're going to end up like the garbage men. We're going to end up like the plumbers and the janitors and all of these people that were shamed. When I was growing up, this is the thing. This is guys. When I was growing up, before before we got to like university or right around that time, when I was a kid, you didn't disrespect the janitor. You thought the janitor's job was okay. I mean, you didn't want to have to clean toilets and stuff. It's not luxurious, but you respected it's the janitor's job. This is how he pays it. This is how he takes care of his family. You knew this as a kid. No one was mocking the janitor. Only stupid people were mocking. Only someone stupid would mock the janitor. It's like being a Gen Xer. You knew you had reasoning skills. Like you understood someone has to clean up. Someone has to clean the bathroom. Someone has to clean the floors. How much money do these people even make? Oh, there's a janitor and then there's a custodian. The janitor is basically responsible just for cleaning one thing. A custodian is basically overseeing all of these different things. So a custodian could oversee multiple different buildings, multiple different schools, and it's his job to oversee the cleaning of all of that. And it's like so that's a lot of money. Yeah, that guy has a lot of experience. He makes a lot of money. Guys, do you realize a lot of custodians don't walk around in like a janitorial outfit? They walk around in a shirt and tie. That's the custodian. Guys, I'm telling you, we screwed up so much. And it's the boomers who instilled disrespect for those jobs, telling us we were going to end up like the postman, and we were going to end up like these people. And if we wanted to have real futures, we need to go and get these bullcrap degrees so that, that now we're spending tons of money to try to pay back. We'll never pay back. And, and while we're basically going to be wage slaves for the rest of our lives, are you ready to take control of your financial future? Imagine achieving success without the burden of college debt. Our course, Your Path to Financial Success Without College, is designed to help you unlock your potential and achieve financial freedom. This course offers practical lessons, real-world strategies, and expert guidance to help you build wealth, invest wisely, and create multiple income streams, all without a college degree. Join a community of like minded individuals who are transforming their lives and achieving their dreams. Don't wait. Click the link in the description to check out our course, Your Path to Financial Success Without College, and start your journey to financial independence today.
I can't compete. Now, I'm not sure if she had got in based off of diversity, equity, and inclusion or anything like that. But what I will tell you, outside of us having a good time, what I will tell you is that there are plenty of students that then get into these college programs and systems that are not qualified, ditto for the jobs that they then go and secure that they can't do. And they've created entire departments dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we have to get back to competing on a worldwide scale that ultimately drives the innovation inside of the United States of America. And other countries have not only caught up, but they've been rapidly passing us because they do not champion education. They champion identity politics. And that's where you got diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is a modification of affirmative action, and it's racist in its inception. It is a very racist narrative to say that somebody that does not qualify can't have, or somebody that does qualify can't have the job because somebody else that looks differently than them is supposed to get it. We done with that. We moving it out the way. And if you are a person that is standing on racist principles, and please miss me with that BS that always says that black people cannot be racist. They can, and a lot of them are. Not all of them, but they can, and a lot of them are. You are going to have to qualify. You're going to have to pick yourself up. You're going to have to grind. You're going to have to study and dedicate yourself. And if you are not prepared, then you will not be successful, and may the best person win. Now that we've graduated in this feminist movement to where people are saying that they want equal, well, then now that's what we get. In addition to that, I am tired, and this is the thing that parents and people have been complaining about for a long time, of people pushing this Marxist liberal agenda and this rhetoric into our schools and our universities that ultimately try to reprogram our children to be sassy, ashy, and not classy. And they have not been able to excel in life. They get out of college, they have a bunch of student loan debt, and then they can't actually qualify for any real job that adds any meaning to society. And so what they do is they then go and they say, well, I want student loan forgiveness, because they made an informed decision. And it's largely a reflection of their parents and being a part of single parent households, if you really want to be honest. And they have not been able to really be able to find their footing outside of being and finding their foundation in these groups and these little pods on these university campuses.
Let me tell you something. A lot of our parents, the boomers, they were not very good parents. They were not very involved in our lives. They basically threw us out when we were quite young and we had to figure it out for ourselves. We had to fight for everything because no one was going to fight for us. And that was really it. And it led to many of us Gen Xers growing up with extraordinary PTSD, complex PTSD. That's one of the main reasons why we just want to be left alone and left under a rock, because we don't want to deal with anyone else's BS. We've had enough. We've been there, done that, seen that. We've lived life. We've experienced ups and downs. And we were the first generation to basically just walk away. I didn't really understand myself until I basically understood Gen X, and I was like, oh, that's where the rage comes from. Many of you guys think that I'm extremely angry. I am angry all the time, but I control my anger pretty well. And there are many Gen Xers who control their anger even better than I do. But let me make this clear. They're even angrier than me. They walk around society pissed off. Some of them just don't care. I'll admit, like, some don't care anymore. And in others, they just don't care. But when I say they don't care, it's like they don't care if, they're going to end up in prison because you wanted to get wise with them. Like, they don't care. Like, they have all of that abuse and and narcissism that they were exposed to, and all of the hardships that they've gone through in life, starting with that childhood. It has left them kind of emotionally damaged. And it's the boomers who are responsible for so much of this. pushing us into these college institutions, telling us that we would not amount to anything, bullying us when we entered into the workforce, and calling us weak. It was absolutely insane. Baby boomers have bullied every single generation that's come after them. They bullied Gen X, they bullied the millennials. They're getting their just deserves with Gen Z because Gen Z doesn't care. Gen Z really doesn't care. Gen Z is a misfit generation. They are the boomers in reincarnate. The boomers stuck around for so long that they started to respawn. And everything that Gen Z is exactly what the boomers are, and they deserve it. Whatever Gen Z gives to them or steals from them, they pretty much had it coming.
And the universities themselves were meant to be institutions of learning, not institutions of propaganda. And so we've spent more time trying to program students instead of help them learn and prepare them for the best positions possible. And that is what our American universities have become. But finally, we got somebody with backbone that is willing to drain the swamp, stand on what America is really supposed to be about. And it is an institution of competition in our universities. And that is what's going to qualify you to be the best candidate for the job, the best candidate in society, and the best person in your household. We need strong people, strong universities, strong leadership like Donald Trump. And guess what? Guess what? Guess what we now not going to do? We not going back to the things that we used to be a part of as far as pushing this liberal agenda, this Obama agenda, this Biden agenda. Biden was a part of Obama. Kamala Harris was going to be a continuation of it. And we no longer going into that phase. Trump is standing up and he's saying, listen, we stand on this, we rock on this, and this is where we're going. This is the direction that we're going. This is where we're going to train our children to be. And again, for me, I'm already set. But the goal of how I voted was that I wanted the best America for my child. The way that I seen this country going, even when I had a child in 2008, I said, oh, this is going to be a grim place. They got men using women's bathrooms. They programming these people at the universities. I got to protect my child. But now we getting back to how we supposed to have been operating in the first place, the way that God ordained for us to be. And I appreciate y'all for tuning in and being a part of this movement. We are entering into the golden era of the United States of America, forward agenda, getting back to the core of traditional values and competing on the highest level. In these universities, y'all going to have to get it together or you're going to suffer. And it's an either or, not an and.
And guys, if you're enjoying the content, check out the Angry Guy Clubhouse. Inside, you'll get exclusive videos, top tier expat and passport bro travel tips, digital nomad guides, passive income strategies, pop culture and geek culture commentary, and hard hitting manosphere content. Free subscribers have access to videos, podcasts, articles, and the community chat. Plus, receive the passive income blueprint and digital nomad blueprint just for joining. Paid subscribers unlock even more value, including exclusive guides like the How to Build an Online Business in 24 Hours ebook, wealth building blueprints, and crypto updates. Join us today by clicking the link in the description and take your journey to the next level. It's crazy how people are coming up with a million different reasons to explain why Kamala Harris lost the election, but the reality is she lost because people don't like her. She lost because people are tired of the way the system is. She lost because it cost $6 for cabbage. She lost because no one believed in her or had confidence in her. Her campaign raised $1 billion, over $1 billion, and she has $20 million in debt. It was one big sham. Don't forget the fact that there needs to be a massive investigation going forward, looking into the state of Joe Biden, the condition that he's been in all of this time, and the fact that Kamala and everyone in the White House knew about this, and they allowed him to continue on while deceiving the American people into believing that he was still competent to serve when he clearly was not. Guys, you're gonna see it. You're absolute guys. We saw him during the debate. He could barely talk. This guy's been falling apart rapidly for ages now. He's not coming back from this, okay? It's just going to be a continued decline. And they're going to try to act like, we should just let it go and let him go peacefully. No, I am hopeful that when Trump goes in, he launches one of the biggest investigations into this fraud, and that the people who were involved in the cover-up should be brought to justice. Guys, these people are so disconnected from reality. Inflation right now only keeps on getting higher. I look at the prices of things and I'm like, it just keeps going up. It just keeps going up. This is impossible. It just keeps costing more. The price of food just never stops. I mean, it's like, how much is a Big Mac supposed to cost? When is it ever going to end? Will it ever end? It's like nonstop. We just keep on spending more and more and more. And guys, when they say inflation is going down, they don't mean that the prices are going down. It just means that they're going up a bit slower. They're like, okay, so we've gone from 3.5% inflation down to 3%. Things are finally cooling down, finally calming down. We're finally getting some relief. This is the media. Thank goodness. Everyone's like, the prices are not going down. In fact, they're still going up. Yes, but they're going up slightly slower. Slightly slower. So that should make it better. How does that make it any better? My wages aren't keeping up with this. I can't buy food right now. I couldn't buy food last month. I couldn't buy food last week. And now you're telling me the prices are still continuing to go up a crazy amount. I'm not making any more money, so I'm not able to get ahead of this. And you're like, well, they're going up slightly less, so you should feel better now. That's an extreme level of stupidity. And of course, they'll turn around and say, this is the messaging from, the Biden camp. Well, we have social programs out there that you can tap into. Guys, they don't understand. No one wants to live on welfare. There's a small segment of the population that want to live on welfare, okay? And those are the people who voted for Kamala. Those are the people where it's like 89, 90% or over 90% of them voted for Kamala Harris. We know exactly who those people are. But for the rest of us, we want to be able to go out into the economy and make our money ourselves and have real opportunities. And that's just something that has been absolutely gone. Everyone is sick of this. Everyone is tired of this. These people are being dismantled left and right. All of the BS is being called out because we see what's happening. Some of you guys are like, oh, well, Trump can't end the IRS. Guys, Trump's talking about ending the IRS. He is 100% talking about ending the IRS. You might not think that it's possible, but it absolutely is. It absolutely is possible for him to end the IRS. It absolutely is possible for him to bring this sham to an end once and for all. He does have the powers. Because you see, here's the interesting thing about this. There's some very loose definitions when it comes to the IRS and who qualifies for taxation and what an individual is actually defined as. I'm so serious. A lot of this is extremely ambiguous. And because it's so ambiguous, he does have the power to basically, through the movement of his pen, essentially get rid of the entirety of the IRS. We actually have a video from IRS Medic. His channel will be linked in the description, so you can go check him out and support him. And he talks about how Trump actually can go about bringing the IRS to a close and getting rid of federal income taxes once and for all. So we're going to go ahead and look at the video from him, and then we'll discuss it, because this is very, very serious, guys. All right? Trump can end the IRS without passing a single law, evidently.
Donald Trump has recently floated the idea of eliminating the federal income tax through implementing high tariffs, a policy he refers to as an all-tariff policy. So the question is this possible? And wouldn't President Trump need to get Congress to join him? Or in the alternative, does he have any leverage to get Congress to agree? Or can Donald Trump just make these changes on his own, or at least through his new Secretary of Treasury? Well, let's get into it. Well, first, let's talk about how he may be able to get rid of the IRS. Here's the thing, folks. The U.S. tax code is written so vaguely and terribly that a change to law might not be required. The U.S. income tax code never bothers to define what an individual is. So while we can infer individual means human beings, as the tax code taxes individuals differently depending if they are married, single, widowed, or head of household. The law tells us nothing otherwise of what an individual is. So is an individual somebody in the United States of America? Is an individual someone who is under 18? Is an individual someone who is in a coma? Is an individual someone who is mentally incompetent? Is an individual someone who is not a U.S. citizen? None of these questions are actually ever debated by any member of Congress. Rather, and here's the problem, the vague, secretive federal income tax law was passed and it completely avoided public deliberation of these decisions about who exactly is subject to the individual income tax law. So who an individual is all decided by regulators at the U.S. Department of Treasury, the cabinet position in charge of administering the U.S. income tax code. So what does that mean? Well, what this means is that the U.S. individual income tax law lives by regulation, and if it lives by regulation, well, most certainly it can die by regulation. Now, Donald Trump can simply appoint a new Secretary of Treasury to draft new regulations. And here's the process. When the U.S. Treasury makes and rewrites regulations, it must follow the Administrative Procedure Act, or APA, like most other federal agencies. The APA requires that when the Treasury Department intends to create new regulations, it must engage in a process known as notice and comment. That rulemaking process includes three main steps. First, the agency must publish a notice of proposed rulemaking. That's going to inform the public of the proposed regulation and invites comments before issuing the final regulation. But here is the potential problem. Regulations must be in harmony with the statutes, and here, the individual income tax law located in Title 26 of the U.S. Code. Now, if a regulation conflicts or restricts the statute, it becomes invalid to the extent of the conflict or restriction. So this principle ensures that the regulations align with the legislative intent. And so there is the chief problem if, say, Donald Trump restricted the income tax to some definition that would make no one subject to it. The new regulation, according to the APA, could be stricken down by the Supreme Court because it would essentially negate the entire individual income tax law, to which the first argument would be, well, hey, look, if the income tax code doesn't define individual, how can there be an individual income tax law? Now, what I would expect back is a counter argument that, hey, look, they defined it enough. Everyone knows what an individual is. The court should just apply its common usage, which means a single human being, as distinguished from a group. To which the counter argument would be something like this, that the definition would mean that every individual in the world would be subject to it. Why would the U.S. tax code apply to citizens of Morocco? And then I would expect the counter argument to be, well, that's what the regulations do. They limit individuals to mean just U.S. citizens, to which I would counter argue, well, that's an admission that the law does not define what an individual is. Now, hey, look, let's end this standoff. So perhaps I would change course with some strategic lawyering. Consider this. As it is right now, the Secretary of Treasury is mandated by Section 7601 of the Internal Revenue Code to canvass Americans for unreported income. That is, go around and try to find this unreported income wherever it could be. That is, at any time, for whatever reason, your right to privacy means nothing to the IRS's authority to run a perpetual snooping campaign. Now look, this violates the Fourth Amendment, but the government doesn't see it that way, as it wants your money. There is no bar to unreasonable searches and seizures. But why? Why can't a new Secretary of Treasury review the law and regulations and say, by Scott, the tax code as enforced is an affront to the Fourth Amendment, which forbids unreasonable searches and seizures. And as part of the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment is the highest law of the land. And because I have a conflict between the statute, that is Title 26, and the U.S. Constitution, the Constitution must prevail. Therefore, the new Secretary of Treasury conclude the only way to make the U.S. Constitution comply with the law is to define individual as a living person in the U.S. who consents to be taxed. Now, this would, of course, effectively end it. Now, I would expect the same challenges. This definition restricts the statute and undermines the law, to which the response is yes. It restricts the U.S. tax code so that it comports with the Constitution. Now, by playing this gambit, President Trump would force those who want the U.S. income tax as is to expose themselves. They would have to admit that the U.S. tax code is the highest law of the land. I think this is a political disaster. Now, then this would create huge leverage Trump could use to get Congress to agree to actually a legislative fix. And again, even though I expect challenges, making sure the IRS only has the powers delegated to it and debated by Congress the Constitution allows. Now, how can Trump enforce tariffs on his own? That question is a lot easier to answer, as Congress has already given U.S. presidents the ability to set tariff rates. Any U.S. president is allowed to set import tariff rates as a function of his authority to manage foreign affairs under the U.S. Constitution. Now, the Constitution grants Congress the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations, but Congress can delegate this power to the president under certain conditions. Congress has enacted various statutes that delegate authority to the president to adjust tariff rates and enter into
Guys, there's a lot coming right now. If you really consider what's happening in Western society, Trump is going to be making massive changes. One of those changes will basically be to eliminate the federal income tax. Then he'll eliminate the federal income tax by raising tariffs. There are people who are saying that, well, if you raise tariffs, then the cost of everything is going to go up, and the next administration, when they come back, they'll just bring the federal income tax back. However, here's the problems. Based on the example this guy just provided, they would have to establish that the income tax is essentially, or their ability to tax you, is the highest law of the land, meaning that it supersedes the Fourth Amendment. That's not something they want to touch. So that's a very, very serious thing. What do I honestly think? When you look at how dumb the people are on the other side of the aisle, I honestly could see them stepping forward. I could see someone like AOC actually doing it. Chuck Schumer actually doing it, Nancy Pelosi actually doing it, basically coming forward and like going and balking at this and outright saying these things. And the thing is, we've seen, guys, we live in clown world right now. So it would not shock anyone to see these people step forward and basically say that, taxation, the law of taxation, is higher and weighs more than the Constitution. Because just like, but this would just basically reveal that the Constitution is broken. And if the Constitution is broken, if you can basically supersede the Constitution based on policy and taxation, well, that means that any of the amendments can be tossed out. And this is a very, very serious issue that most of these people do not want to touch. So Trump definitely has the power to do this. And of course, he's not going to want to set up a scenario where when he leaves office, they can turn around and just bring this back. So my guess is that by doing this in this way, it would become very, very difficult for them to bring it back, because they would end up having to pass a law. If Trump gets rid of taxation through this means, which basically shows that, technically speaking, they've never had any right to tax people based on the definition of individual. And Congress, to my understanding, would have to basically pass a bill to define exactly what an individual is and all of these factors. They, technically speaking, would not be able to bring the federal income tax back until it is resolved using a bill by Congress. Can it happen? Of course. There's also the notion that Trump could have an amendment passed later on during his term, because he does have both sides. He does have both chambers. Now, it could be very hard. It could be much harder to do this, of course, because you need something like 2/3 of Congress to agree with you to pass an amendment. So it's not as easy as it's said and done. But we can definitely get rid of the IRS. We can definitely get rid of taxation, the federal income tax. I mean, guys, imagine living in a state where you don't have to worry about a federal income tax. You don't have a state tax. And, hopefully some places eventually eliminate the property tax. Guys, that's the American dream right there. It really, really is. Being able to actually outright own your property, and it could never be seized from you because you fall behind on your property taxes. So your land cannot, they cannot take your land from you. They cannot touch your land that belongs to you. And you don't pay federal tax. You don't pay state tax. I mean, if you have a scenario like this, the reality is that now you actually can live. You can actually breathe. And that's how the world used to be. That's how the US used to be, where, even if you didn't have a lot, that's how it is in a lot of countries. Even if you don't have much, you still have your land. You still have your home that you built on it yourself, even if it's a shack. And you can live. And that's the way it's supposed to be. For most men, the average man can live happily in a shoebox at the side of the road. And as a result of that, I really believe that as we're going forward, you're going to see a lot of men becoming wealthy and a lot of women slipping into poverty. Because as men are not having children, not getting married, you have all of these videos now with guys saying don't date or cohabitate. Fast forward to 2030, half of all women, or almost half of all women, 45% of all women will be childless and single. And we're not even factoring in the single mothers. When you factor those women in, you're looking at around 79 to 90%, to around 70 to 90% of women that will be childless, that will be single. That's a lot of single women. And you're going to have a lot of women living in extraordinary states of poverty and destitution, because their well-being is significantly lower than women who were born almost 100 years ago. And there's really no recourse for any of this. And of course, they're coming after men now for walking away from society, but men are walking away and not looking back. So Trump definitely means business, and these people are going to be facing a lot of hardships, and it's going to change the world around us forever. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts. We'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away, and cheers.